Welcome and good morning. Thank you for joining us for adding yoga to your program. I am Connie Morris. I hold a general ed and intervention license. I have a master's in special education with a focus on autism. Around 3 years ago, I became a children's yoga teacher and began using it in both my inclusion setting as well as a specialized classroom. I had parents approaching me and asking some questions about the mindfulness, and we'll use yoga and mindful movement interchangeably during this session. I had some parents bring to my attention that they were noticing a greater focus, greater confidence, and better self-control with their children. It seemed to keep coming up to me in yoga through the master's program that there were some studies being done, additional studies were being asked for because they were seeing a definite increase in positive behaviors, especially with students with autism. So I started using mindfulness in the classroom, and I also began seeing what parents had expressed. And that's why I'm very excited to share the whys and the how-tos as you add mindful movement to your students' day. During the next hour, we will address how to use evidence-based practices, what mindful movement is and how mindfulness is involved, and how you can feel confident in adding yoga to your program while being aware of its many benefits. Please feel free to make comments and ask questions throughout the session by using the chat box. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just the National Professional Development Center on Autism Spectrum Disorders. The list of evidence-based practices by definition, the instructional strategy, intervention, or teaching program that is grounded in scientifically based research. Mindfulness is new in the classroom, and it's very helpful to be able to work with parents and administrators and other staff members to show the scientifically based research behind this program. So the definition of exercise through the NPDC is the evidence-based practice of positively enhancing learning and emotional health. So this type of exercise includes physical exertion that will reduce problem behaviors or increase appropriate behaviors. And yoga is considered one of these practices because it builds on balance, flexibility, and strength, and it does have physical exertion involved. Here is the why that it's important. We need to use science to support our practices in the classroom. By adding mindfulness to our students' day, we can begin to see better physical wellness, increase positive behaviors that focus on completion of tasks, academic engagement, coping skills, and social opportunities, decrease negative behaviors including aggression, self-injury behaviors, and length of time on tasks. There's a real strong link to the real-world application and lifelong learning. Some of the studies have discussed whether the instruction is appropriate to students if the teacher is not used to working with children, especially children with special needs. So when we have teachers and therapists that add mindfulness to their classroom, keeping good observations is helping to provide more of a base for observations and support that this is actually helping. It's very important that we keep it age appropriate to the group that you work with and use universal design so that all individuals have this equal opportunity to learn. Throughout this webinar, we'll look at evidence-based practices that we use in the classroom already and address how they can be used specifically while you design your program for yoga. Some of these are, the first, of course, is exercise, then visual supports, modeling, reinforcement, social skills training, task analysis, parent implemented intervention, peer-mediated and intervention, prompting, and self-management. We'll get into each one of these in a little bit more detail. ABCs of yoga help us remember exactly what we can include in each lesson. So action, breathing, and centering, and not necessarily in this order, it's just a good way to remember, but there's a physiological basis for mindfulness. Using EEGs and MRIs, they have found that exercise and physical activities produce endorphins, which helps with feelings of well-being. Exercise can also help us sleep better and feel less stressed. Breathing, the way we breathe will cause different chemicals to be released in our body. So if we're excited or scared, we will have adrenaline that causes a fight or flight behavior. Instead of doing that, to change the behavior, we want our students to breathe right and basically have more of a calming breath, using their belly and slowing that breath down. The third is centering. Mindfulness uses the frontal cortex, training the brain to focus. We're actually rewiring our brain to a higher level of thinking using centering and mindfulness in schools. So let's talk a little bit more about mindful movement. Hopefully what we've covered so far helps with the why. I'll wait till this ambulance goes by. Now on to the how-to. This is a fun interactive part when we're all together. So I want you guys to help me, and I'll ask you to see these activities through the eyes of your students. Feel free to add some thoughts or ideas and questions in the chat box. All right. When we plan a lesson in yoga, we can use storytelling, games, music, language, and other arts to build a complete curriculum that engages the whole child. We're going to use literature, science, a lot of science, nutrition, socialization, self-regulatory skills, and team building through fun activities, but in a very structured and predictable environment. This will help our students by creating more focus, giving them some calming techniques, resilience, control of anger expression, and improved learning and interdependence, as well as interdependence. So if we look at the picture, this is a snow unit. The cotton balls were used as small snowballs. We used some straws to do some breathing. So the students can use the straw to inhale and pick up the cotton ball, exhale, it will drop. So a very controlled activity. There's a few literature books there. Snowman at Night is one of my favorites. After reading it, there's so many activities that you can act through with your students and incorporate the yoga on that. There's some other snow ideas. So pulling yourself into a little ball and rolling around on the floor is a good stretching and a little bit of a stress release. Ice skating, passing the snowball either with your feet or with your hands, building a snowman pose where the students and your staff can help move the students into different poses as though they're building a snowman, and then they hold those poses for as long as they can. You can add music such as I'm a Little Snowman or 5 Little Snowmen. Just a quick recap of that lesson here. Another example of some theme relators we're going to get to a little bit later in the lesson planning. But I want to talk first about using the multiple intelligences. Yoga uses many of the modalities during each practice. So using lots of approaches, especially of interest and strength of each of your students, will keep everyone involved and straighten those modalities. So we can look at music, a big one, playlist, theme related, ever changing. A lot of nature sounds are very helpful as you're building your program. Definitely spatial, verbal opportunities, math, body awareness, the awareness of self and others, and nature. In doing this too, you're also strengthening the areas where maybe some of your students need a little additional work on that. But as I said, when you have a strength and an interest, this is just such a great way to work those in to your program. So yoga is about the flow and the focus. You're actually training your brain to think differently, maybe than to always react to the environment. During the practice, you become aware of your breath, your space, your feelings, and your body. And we can help do that with our students by just naming a part of the body during the practice. For instance, if they're just standing, asking them to think about their toes, maybe even touching the area of their foot that you want them to think about. And all the focus goes right to that instead of maybe what is going on around them. So we are directing our thoughts through movement, breath, and visualizations. And we'll talk a little bit more about visualizations, but there's so many opportunities through pictures, through videos, and through your storytelling that our students can escape the day and go to so many different places, which is helpful to all of us. So we're beginning to train their mind to not fight or flight, but to breathe right. And with the older kids, this is the perfect little sentence to use as a reminder that that breath is important in our control of our actions. So to use that phrase over and over again is very helpful. Yoga is inclusive, it's social, non-competitive, sensory friendly, and we'll talk more about that, calming, allows for self-regulation, and most importantly, I think, and is the lifelong practice of calming oneself giving yourself a chance to relax and focus on your body and how you're feeling. And again, this is important for everyone. If we use this as a lifelong skill, it allows our students to, as they enter adulthood, to feel comfortable entering in this type of situation and feeling at peace with it and knowing what to expect there as well. The visuals are very, very important. As we know, throughout our day, we're using visuals during instruction. So using pictures that work for everyone, no matter what your situation is as far as inclusion or whatever, the breathe in and breathe out picture is very helpful in understanding that you're breathing in as though you're smelling a flower. So it's a little bit quicker when you breathe out to blow out a candle. We want to make that breath longer and longer and build on those skills to release some of our bad energy with that breath and actually learn to visualize it going away from our body. The second picture is a picture for instruction where the students will move from mat to mat, and those are cards with very simple stick figure poses. So on the first mat, that is a tree pose, and the students know that they end up facing each other, so if there's a peer with them, it's helpful. But they face each other and they take the tree pose. After a certain amount of time with the signal of a bell, we all move down to the next mat and do the next pose. This is a very easy way to go through a couple different poses. There's more mats there than you will probably want to use to begin with, but that is what we work towards. The last picture is Medi-Teddy, and I can't recommend this prop enough. Medi-Teddy can be ordered online. It is a posable yoga bear, and the kids love him. We start each class by posing Medi-Teddy in the pose that we're all going to take. You can talk about what you need to do to get to that pose. You can show the steps that are included. Sometimes they put Medi-Teddy in a pose that would be virtually impossible for any of us to get in, but it's a learning process. So we'll usually sit in a comfortable seated position, either crisscross legs or legs out in front, but he can lay on his belly and then the children follow, or laying on the back, whatever works for your students. The expectations are also very important to use visuals with as well. You can have if-then strips for an individual student, perhaps yoga expectation rules with pictures for all of them. Again, keeping it simple, listening to teacher, using quiet voices, staying on your mat, and hands and feet to self. Adding these pictures from Boardmaker or maybe the Unique Learning System, they have a yoga section as well with pictures. Will just help guide the students in those expectations. Social scripts, you can write, we do yoga in a social script or a book where again, you're sharing the rules and the expectations for the students. Those can go home and be a link between parents and you. The schedules. Adding yoga to your daily schedule is important. When can they expect it? Where does it fit into their day? Also, a yoga schedule strip is very, very helpful, where you start in the pose that you're going to give Medi-Teddy, or the first pose that the students are going to take, and what movements and poses will be covered during your lesson, perhaps in what order, what other activities might be included, And always end with a quiet time, and we'll talk more about that. But it gives you and the students a special time to unwind, because you want it fun and you want some movement, but then you bring it all back to that quiet focus at the end. Again, if you have any ideas where you'd like to add something, or you have any resources you've seen, feel free to let us know about those. So reinforcement. It is important to work and communicate with families. This is a great, fun way to do it. You can send home what you're doing in yoga, the picture of the day or pose of the week, a social script for yoga that they can share with their students as well. By continuously sharing this information and observation, we are communicating on what's working well for the student, and it also helps develop these lifelong learning and coping skills. Throughout your school day, you'll see your students begin to use breathing or other tools when they're frustrated. That is the goal, not just in yoga, but then to have this transfer of skills. It is important that these skills are recognized and rewarded. Can yoga and breathing be added to a positive behavior plan? These are pictures of a raffle that we use when we see good skills being used on their own, the students using it on their own. Then we recognize it with a good yogi raffle ticket. The raffle ticket goes into a jar, and periodically we'll pull the raffle winner, and they'll get to choose from the prizes out of the prize box. So there's fidget spinners, there's warm socks, there's coloring books, those type of things. Kids yoga mats is great, and they can take any of these things home. So you might want to begin to think, what is your reward system and how can it be used when you see the transfer of skills that you're teaching them with yoga into the rest of their day? That way we're really working on those adaptive skills, where we're developing practical skills, helping our students function and adapt to the demands throughout their day, especially skills they can use as they grow older and enter adulthood. Now we'll get into some of the ways that you can design your lesson. First, using modeling, and again, there's so many opportunities for this through inclusion. You can add partner yoga, which is using 2 students, maybe 3, to do some poses. You're going to have to consider your students' needs and flexibility in this. A real easy one, for instance, is a downward dog partner pose. The picture in the video is a down dog pose. If you bring 2 students, mats close together, and they're facing each other, when they go down to forward fold and step back, their hands and their head are going to be pretty close to each other. This can be considered a partner pose, and it will bring some attention to the person that's right in front of them. So again, in an inclusion setting or just in your classroom, using staff and peers to face each other will begin to allow the students to feel comfortable doing a partner pose. Another good one is just sitting, facing each other, sitting on the floor, feet outstretched, so that their feet maybe are close to touching each other. They can reach forward and either touch each other's arms, or you can use props like a scarf or a straw that they can both hold on to. And there's a little bit of stretching in that, maybe with a rock back and forth. So the partner yoga is very helpful. Video modeling, if you can film peers doing the poses. There are lots of YouTube videos with the mindful movement or yoga. This is one that I like. I think it's called Musical Adventures. Great music in all of them. Stick figures. Sometimes they move a little fast, but you can slow it down or pause it and help the students. But they're great videos. So I have another example of that in another slide, but that's a great resource. The other one, the picture on the bottom, is a teacher modeling, touching your toes, allowing, of course, that you're bending your knees. And it's important to remember this is an adult yoga. It's supposed to be fun. So renaming the poses, if you're doing a unit and you're talking about monkeys, a forward fold can turn into a monkey pose, and you can have a lot of fun with that. The games such as Follow the Leader, again, a wonderful way to do modeling, or Yogi Says instead of Simon Says. Feel free to use pictures to help the students know the expectation and the direction. I want to focus on just being able to say as adults, I think if you do yoga or if you go to any exercise class, we spend a lot of time looking at the person next to us and making sure that they're doing the pose right, or at least I do. So using that inclusion opportunity and having as many people involved as possible is a great way to do some modeling. And the social opportunities are endless, and you can build on these. It can be slow steps to begin with. The other video for the musical adventures, there's an example down at the bottom. This one is actually partner poses. Again, a wonderful way to pair students that feel comfortable or using the staff to get involved and do the partner poses. We used to say that we felt much better after doing yoga. It was very calming for all of us. So having it at a good time of the day, splitting it up into 2 shorter sessions, whatever works for you or what's necessary to get through the day, I think that's helpful. So you have the inclusion, the peer modeling, games, any form of touch. If you look at the 2 boys on the right-hand slide, that is a cut-off t-shirt, extra large t-shirts. If you can get a hold of some and just cut off right underneath the arms, those make a great yoga prop. They work as a way to be close enough but not too close, and it's a great prop. Partner poses, again, you can use the t-shirt or keep it simple like the picture on the bottom, just back to back. And all this pose is sitting quietly and feeling your breath on somebody else's back. So again, either staff or peers, or if you have a parent night, this is a fun activity where you become aware of your breath. As you develop the skill, you can try to time the breath where you're both breathing in at the same time and out at the same time. Group poses, the picture on the top is just a fun picture where you can grab onto your hands and raise your feet. They typically end up rolling over onto their back and laughing, but as long as you can hold those feet up. If you do it in a circle, it's a lot of fun too. Your feet can sometimes touch. Again, whatever is comfortable for your students. I'd like to add too that the social aspect of this is lifelong. There are opportunities, children classes outside of school. We do a community class for students with autism in our area, and it just gives them a different place to be around different people but still have the resources they need to get outside of school and their home. So you're building your toolbox, and the whole process of this is using what you already know, but also in doing this, you're helping them build their toolboxes. So you want an area of your room that's specifically used for yoga. The top left-hand picture on that cabinet has I think that is Boardmaker, breathe in, breathe out picture. I use baskets to keep everything separated. You'll see some small play balls there, a parachute, a scarf, and we'll talk about the scarf for sensory. You can create a wind with a scarf while they're laying on the floor. You can run a scarf up and down their arms and their legs for a little sensory and calming. But having an organized space for yoga with what you need ready is what we do all day long anyway, so it's important to remember to do it here as well. You want to use your evidence-based practices. You want to use the student's special interests for your themes. Structure and the predictability is very important, that they know what to expect. And of course, your activities aren't going to be the same, but there's a routine and they feel comfortable with that. The rest, again, we'll talk a little bit about just the pressure and the massage, the reps, everything you normally use can be used in yoga. So let's talk a little bit more about quiet time. This young man on the right side is in, again, the bottom of a t-shirt, just wrapping himself up. It creates an additional calmness. The pressure, you can walk around and apply a little pressure on each student's shoulders. In an inclusion setting, I find that this is extremely helpful, that they see that everybody's getting a little pressure on their shoulders and just relaxing. A soft use of massage across their face, maybe to keep their eyes and their mouth calmly closed, and again, pushing gently on the feet. All of this pressure and massage that we use during the day is great. It's a great way to connect with your kids at the end of yoga, and I find that it's a very peaceful time for me as well. The BOA can be used for a student that maybe doesn't want the use of your hands, gently putting it across their face if they like that. The stuffed animals that's in that picture, they're small stuffed animals. If you put them on their belly for relaxation and breath, it's very calming, and they tend to lay a little bit more still because the goal is to put the animal to sleep. So we rock it with our breath and we're very still. Candles, the lighting, the music, all of that is very important in your toolbox, and you use that all the time anyway. The other picture I have there is the 5-point scale, and using the 5-point scale and adding the skills that your students are learning and you have found to be effective for them. So let's say a pinwheel, blowing on a pinwheel, calms you, find from yoga, it calms your student. That might be something you want to add to their incredible 5-point scale. The picture of the hoverball that's on the small yoga mat is a great visual for breathing in and out. Without any words at all, you can hold that ball. It expands and collapses. So when you make it a big ball, they breathe in a big breath. And when you collapse it, they exhale. And again, you can control that slowing down, taking bigger breaths each time, opening that ball up a little wider. A great visual for while they're relaxing and breathing. The whole goal here is while you're building your toolbox, we're building their toolbox. So adding a basket or a toolbox, something that they can go to and find the things that work for them. Perhaps a scarf. A scarf can be used for while they breathe as well. If you hold it in front of your face and you breathe in, it will come towards you. Breathe out, it blows away. And just holding the top of it, you can hold it, they can hold it. Same with the pinwheel. Straws do the same thing. You can add a cotton ball or a feather to a straw where they're trying to hold it onto the straw and then blowing it away. The big and little balls are great. We use those, the big exercise balls, to roll on and to release some energy. The little balls are wonderful. And again, as a staff, if you're modeling this, this will become one of your favorite parts of the day, because if you put that lower ball on the lowest part of your back and lay back on it and roll around on it, it is a great release for any back stress that you're experiencing. Does the same thing for our kids. Help them stay on the ball, because sometimes those, if you're on your back, it can get away from you. But as their balance increases, you can try to put it on the, lay on your belly and put it underneath your feet and push up and see if you can have that balance. So these are good, inexpensive props as well. Retelling your stories. These are such teachable moments, and I think one of my favorite parts of yoga during the day. We had a student that would actually say he didn't like that story when things did not go the way he wanted. And after doing guided meditation with him, just storytelling with your eyes closed, we began to use that as teachable moments. And to calm him, we would, instead of saying what happened, it was kind of like a social script, but we'd ask him to lay down on the yoga mat when he was ready. And then we would retell the story, starting with whatever the trigger was, and then what maybe would have been a better alternative to a behavior. And the outcome was always much better for his day, and he would smile and say that he liked that story better. So these are skills, again, that we want to be able to use throughout the day. One-on-one, retelling stories for behaviors that maybe have a much more positive outcome and choice for them. So at this point, if you're familiar with yoga, hopefully you've got a whole bunch of ideas. When I started the children's yoga, I wasn't sure that I could teach it to kids. I think the important part here is to know that there is no right way. There is just making sure that they have fun. But there should be the same pattern that you follow each time. And this is what I follow. You want to have some kind of centering or a slowdown. And we use the word slow with the older kids. I'll use it with the young kids, but I don't get into as much detail. Each one of those letters is important for us to remember, to make sure we go through and tell them what to do. So the S is for scanning the body. So at the beginning of your yoga lesson, you want to tell them, just think about your body, scan your body, whatever words work for you. Go from the top of your head down to the bottom of your feet, and just let each muscle relax. Again, pictures are great here, naming or touching, the head and then the shoulders and then the arms gives them a little bit more help with this guided practice as far as just being aware of their tensions and their body. The L is for lower your shoulders. And again, we gently walk around and push down on their shoulders so that their stress is just released in that. And that goes for adults too. If you use this word yourself during the day, you'll feel a great deal of stress reduction in the moment. Lowering your shoulders, and then the O is for opening your breath. So you're lowering your shoulders and then you're pulling them back a bit so that you're opening your breath to have more capacity for deeper and slower breathing. The W is for why we're here. And again, if you go through the spelling of the word yourself, that's helpful in helping your students. If it helps them and they're able to learn this and do it themselves, that's even better. So the W is, why are we doing this? We're calming down. Or why are we doing this? Because I'm upset and I need just to slow my body down before I do anything else. The why is guided, and hopefully we all get to a point where we know we can start naming that ourselves. Then we want to add some stretching, some loosening up of our body after where maybe our shoulders are a little tense or our back is a little tense. Mindful motion and storytelling, music, and games are in whatever order works for your lesson. And I'll get, the next slide is more on the mindful motion, because I think that's where a lot of us get a little bit worried, are we doing this right? And again, there is no right way. We just want to move and feel that stress be released. And then we cool down, because the stories and games can be fun and they can be exciting. This whole process doesn't have to be quiet. But we do want to cool down before we go into the quiet part of the yoga lesson. So it's important. That's one of the best times of the lesson, and you want to make sure you have, you might start with 5 minutes. You will quickly work up to 10 to 15 minutes of quiet time, and just watching them on those mats in their wraps with you helping with a little massage, it's honestly just the best part of your day. The one picture there is a centering activity where you can add in arts and crafts, colors, stickers, whatever works for you. All of those things are stress reduction, will reduce stress for adults, but they also work for children as well. So again, lots of options here depending on your comfort with yoga, but it's movement. So there's no worries about the yoga poses names. You do not have to be a certified yoga teacher. I keep the names out of my school classrooms as far as, the formal yoga name. Just keep it simple. And one of the most fun things you can do is let them design poses and come up with names themselves. So the sun salute, or the sun salutation, is the building block for yoga. So you start with the mountain pose, you reach up, and these are the words that I use for the kids. So we have this poster, and they're in mountain pose, which is just feet on the floor and hands to your side. You take a deep breath up. Each one of these pictures is an inhale or exhale. So your breath begins to match your movement. And again, this is a building process. So mountain, you're standing. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, step back. Look up. You go into cobra or up dog. Again, those are simple words that you can use. Down dog is just lifting your hips. Walking your feet forward or walking your hands back, your choice. You can mix that up a little bit. They'll be back in forward fold. and then say the word roll slowly, because if they come up too fast, we all get dizzy. So the word roll and the movement is a very slow roll up. Where I put the asterisk with down dog, this is where you can, once you get the sun salutation down, sun salute, you can add poses at down dog and then eventually get to forward fold and roll up. So maybe warrior one, if you're talking about a theme, maybe you'll add a pose or two here after reading a book, however you want to work this. But the sun salute is plenty. It's a great start to this before you start adding poses. So let's talk real quick about maybe a beach theme. And for the centering, and again, if you have any input here, I am happy to hear your thoughts, and we'll share those. But you center by slowing your body down, whatever that becomes for your classroom. Maybe spend a little time preparing for a beach trip. And this is, again, this is the centering. Offer some choices, maybe have some pictures ready. Let's pack a lunch. Let's put it in our backpack. We want to make sure we have water. And then move into the stretching by saying, you know, let's make sure we put on suntan lotion. And we can be sitting on our bottom and stretching towards our feet, put suntan lotion on our legs and our hands, which is actually just them imagining they have lotion and doing a little bit of a massage for themselves and stretching at the same time. You could read the book, Maria Explores the Ocean. It's a yoga book. It's online. It has a lot of great poses during the book, and then you can actually use it for the pose part of your lesson. I think there's a jellyfish that glides and a manta ray no, I'm sorry, the manta ray glides and the jellyfish floats. But in the book, they have little pictures of the actual yoga pose they want you to do. In the case of the manta ray, it's a warrior three pose, but there's a picture there that shows exactly what to do. So that could be the pose part of it. And then using some of the ocean animals, maybe with stuffed animals, you could play a game for focus on, you know, having them close their eyes and removing one of the animals and see if they know which animal is missing. Giving them those animals then for the quiet time, letting them have that animal on their belly as they relax. So you can take that whole theme and build it around your lesson. So the last couple pictures, we're going to talk about just what do we see. Again, just some other ideas that you can use in your lesson. So these pictures are, hopefully you see the theme, quieting activities. There is a YouTube video that has a 3.5 minute guided meditation on a hot air balloon ride with music. So you just turn it on. There's one picture. They can close their eyes. They can stare at the picture, and it tells them what to do. You can walk around and do a little bit massage, or maybe help them relax their feet and their body while they're listening to this video. And these videos are endless, so they're great. You can type in guided meditation or quieting videos for school, yoga. You'll get a lot of different ideas there. And they'll pick some of their favorites too. The picture below it is a young man with a bubble on his finger. I recommend Gymboree bubbles if you can get them. I believe they're online, but there's Gymboree stores. They are small and they don't pop easily. We call them magic bubbles, and we ask the kids to sit very quietly and the bubbles will come to them. And they do, because if they're moving and they're talking and they're playing, the bubbles will move away just because of the motion, the air motion. So the quieter the group, the bubbles go to them. Of course, you have a little bit of control over that too. Make sure you blow them to the kids who are especially quiet. They can catch them on their finger without popping, and they can build snowmen, catch a couple. You can ask them to focus on the colors in the bubble until it pops. It's a great activity. The bubbles will cover the floor, so then you can get up and have a little bit of movement in ice skating and maybe getting rid of those bubbles. Coloring is a great activity. Maybe filling in something. There's a lot of free online coloring for this. You can fill in the circles with stickers, whatever works best for your students. Pinwheels, again, just sitting and blowing on a pinwheel brings the focus to that pinwheel and calms your students. Trying to get to the next slide here. Oh, there you go. All right, I'm sorry. Sensory activities here. The animals are on their belly, or in this one student case on his face. Again, whatever works for them to calm them and feel comfortable in lying still. The picture below we call a yoga burrito, and students tend to enjoy this. And this is something you can do during the day as well, or a skill that they may come and ask you. We had a student that would come to us with a mat and ask us to make him into a burrito. Again, you can share this with parents, probably helpful to share with parents so that they know, a blanket or whatever might work as well. More sensory, again, that lighting, your playlists are very important. All lights off with neon bracelets and that can go on the ankle or the wrist makes a different atmosphere for the yoga and another fun approach for movement. A rolling pin on the back is a great stress reduction activity, and of course we have the textured balls, whatever works in your room. Having these things ready and being able to use them is very helpful. In this picture, we're trying to show the social opportunities. Having feathers, like I said, with those straws can be purchased at most dollar stores. They're pretty sturdy, colorful, and big. Breathing in, picking up a straw, passing it down the line is fun, creates an opportunity for a little bit of eye contact. Same thing with using cotton balls or feathers or pom-poms in the toes and passing them down. Socks on, socks off, again, whatever your students and you feel is most appropriate. On the bottom picture, passing a ball with your hands to somebody else's feet, using scarves to hold hands and stretch, as we talked about earlier, and then just all reaching and playing with the bubbles give an opportunity for inclusion and some play throughout the day. This page is literature. I wanted to focus on, there are a lot of opportunity for yoga pose books. As I mentioned, the Maria Goes to the Ocean, Sophia's Jungle Adventure, Yoga Poses for Kids. There are a lot of books that you can purchase that will help work through your lesson. Transportation is a fun one, I think, because it gives you a little bit more opportunity for socialization and fun. If you line up kids and you're on a bus and you're pretending you're bouncing and falling out of your seats, I mean, we're all real close together, and it tends to get a little giggly and allows them to have some fun with their peers. you know when to maybe go into a calming activity. What's nice about yoga is you can have an activity that gets them a little worked up, and then you can throw in something that's very quieting. So you can control that that mood through the whole process. On the bottom, we have a class in a studio after reading Superhero Max. We all became superheroes and made our own superhero pose. Using those interests can be a lot of fun. Dr. Seuss is a great resource. Amazing Kids Yoga has Dr. Seuss yoga cards that can be a fun activity as well. So, and then tying it into possibly a Dr. Seuss book. What you see here is music. And we're focusing not only on the kids' strength, but teacher strengths. So where your strengths are, you can add to your lesson as well. I use a lot of props for music. My voice is not one that holds a tune very well. So a lot of bells. The chimes are beautiful and calming. If a student doesn't like it, then get rid of it, but use what works. The picture with the bowl and the wooden stick is a singing bowl, and this you'll need to practice. You can order this online. It is a beautiful a sound that just lingers for as long as you take that wooden stick around the edge of the bowl. It sings to you. Kids love it, and they get to hold the bowl. You can either put it on their belly or put it on their hand. Their hand has to remain flat, but the bowl vibrates, and it's a sensory activity that's quite fun. You bring that wooden stick around and around and make it sing. They love that. Some students can actually get very good at making it sing as well. So that's a great prop. Ringing bells don't have to make noise. In fact, with yoga, the bells that I have, the colorful bells on the left side, are a fun prop to use when you're trying to bring it down to a quiet. You do a pose without making any sound. So you can go back and forth with music and then that quieting. Wheels on the Bus is just an example of doing group songs and maybe having an activity that follows. So there's lots and lots of ways to put a lesson together while considering their preferences, their interests, their needs, and their strengths. Start simple and short and build on what works, making that practice longer. Because throughout the day, it's all about finding the calm in the chaos. And I think you'll enjoy this as much as they will. So I can't thank you enough for joining us. I have my email down on this slide. I would love to hear from you, share your stories, what works, what doesn't, if you have any questions. And if you shoot me an email and ask me, I will send you a breathe in and breathe out card, complimentary, so that you can download that and get started. Anybody have any questions? I didn't leave a lot of time, but if you have any questions or any thoughts, I would love to hear them. And I do hope that you enjoyed the program. And I hope you're excited about getting started. It really is a fun time of the day with staff and students. All right, well, don't hesitate to send me an email, and I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you.